What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. And yeah, a little bit better, but still. The ground just shifted beneath Putin's feet, and it was not a Ukrainian drone buzzing overhead. It was Washington, ripping off the last mask of restraint. For the first time since the war started, the United States is preparing to officially hand Ukraine real-time targeting intelligence for strikes deep inside Russia. We're not talking about a few drones swatting warehouses along the border. We are talking about potential Tomahawks, Neptunes, Flamingos hitting refineries, pipelines and power plants. The lifeblood of Russia's war economy. The move marks the most radical departure yet from America's old playbook of cautious, limited support. Now, the gloves are fully off. Trump's second term, which started with vague promises of quick peace, is suddenly morphing into high-stakes escalation that Moscow never wanted to imagine. That is the price of Putin's arrogance. Trump was his best chance to end it all, but because it was more important for Putin to humiliate him rather than cooperate, the tables turned. Trump lost all of his patience. And it's not like he just got much of it, but now it's all gone. And the timing, perfectly cruel. Ukraine has already knocked out nearly 40% of Russia's refining capacity. Fuel lines snake across Russian provinces, angry drivers are rationed to 20 liters of gas, and Moscow is begging Beijing and Seoul to sell it gasoline. Add to this European Union circling around 140 billion euros in frozen Russian assets, like vultures, ready to funnel them straight into their own weapon factories under the banner of helping Ukraine. The nightmare of Putin we spoke about in previous episode is just getting started, and it will only get worse for him moving forward. The big story is pretty simple. Washington is not just nudging Kyiv anymore. It's pointing the rifle, loading the bullet, and giving Ukraine the opportunity to press the trigger. Until now, US support had limits. No direct help in hitting energy infrastructure, no Tomahawks, no long-range kill shot into Russia's economic heart, nothing like this. But that red line just got erased. The White House is finalizing written guidance to intelligence agencies and the Pentagon authorizing them to give Ukraine real-time targeting data. Think about what it means in practice. Satellites, drones, electronic intercepts, and surveillance imagery all funneled directly into Ukrainian command posts. Suddenly, hitting a refinery 700 miles inside Russia is not just a lucky break or just lucky strike. It is a coordinated assault. This is Trump's pivot. After months of posturing about peace and vague deals, he is simply sick of Putin's stubbornness at the negotiating table. His Truth Social post was just straight to the point. Ukraine could win all of Ukraine back in its original form. Quote unquote. This was not just rhetoric, it was a policy declaration, and it has teeth. Tomahawk cruise missiles with their 1500-mile range are now on Kyiv's wish list, and the Trump team is openly reviewing the request. The Vice President J.D. Vance confirmed it already. Add to that Washington's push to get NATO allies to feed their own targeting data into Ukraine's system, and you're looking at the first coordinated Western effort to weaponize Russia's most obvious weakness. Its total dependence on oil and gas money. They already, solved half the problem by limiting Russia's customers to primarily China and India, who are now the ones dictating the real prices. But with destroying more than half of Russia's energy production capabilities, hopefully in the near future, this can very well become the final nail in the Russian coffin. For Putin, this is a nightmare scenario. It is a war chest is built on oil, its budget balanced on pipelines, its bribes to oligarchs paid out of fuel exports, and once those assets start going up in flames, quite literally, on a weekly basis, the Kremlin's capacity to pay soldiers, buy weapons and subsidize bread prices collapses. Putin thought sanctions were bad. Wait until every strike on a refinery translates into another 50,000 Russians, small town sitting in dark apartments for 2 weeks straight. Maybe even more. But Ukraine did strike deep inside Russian territory previously, right? We all know that. What makes things different this time? Let's talk about this in our next chapter. The question is not whether Ukraine can hit Russia anymore. It is how deep, how often, and how crippling those hits become. Over the past year, Ukraine has proven that it can devastate Russia's energy backbone. By the end of September, like mentioned previously, nearly 40% of Russia's refining capacity was offline thanks to Ukrainian drones and missiles. 16 of 38 refineries hit, hundreds of millions of barrels taken off the domestic market, fuel rationing enforced across multiple provinces. In some towns, people are lining up for hours just to buy 10 liters of gas, that's maximum. And repairs, forget it. Sanctions have already blocked spare parts, foreign contractors will not touch the sites, and even Moscow's own deputy prime minister admitted that the crisis could drag on for months or even more. Now add this US intelligence to the mix. Suddenly, Ukraine's strikes will not just be bold, they will be precise. Satellite confirmation of where repairs are underway, signals intercepts of fuel shipments rerouting, our overhead surveillance of air defense repositioning. Every refinery hit will matter more, every strike more efficient, every attack part of a broader campaign to systematically grind down Russia's energy sector. And it's not just about drones. Kyiv's domestically produced Flamingo missiles reportedly reach 1,800 miles. Combine that with Europe's $350 million push to expand Ukraine's own deep strike industrial base, and you've got the recipe for a permanent, scalable assault on Russia's war economy. This is not theory, it is already happening. Russia has been forced to lift import duties on foreign fuel, subsidize emergency shipments, and raid its federal budget just to keep pumps flowing. That is literally a band-aid on a bullet wound. Once Ukraine starts striking with Western intelligence and longer-range firepower, Russia's entire economic model, which is extract oil, export it, sell it, fund war, starts collapsing under its own weight. But as you would expect it, the Kremlin says that everything is normal and according to the plan. I mean, what else would they say, right? But is it though? Can at least some of them start cracking under the pressure and remove this facade of this circus? Let's talk about it in our next chapter. Kremlin's spokesmen are already panicking in public. Dmitry Peskov, for example, the first person you would think about, is asking absurd questions like, who is assigning the targeting to these missiles? As if somehow changes the fact that Russia's refineries are smoking craters. Sergei Lavrov then repeats the tired line that Tomahawks will not change the situation on the battlefield. I mean, really? Tell that to a Russian tracker, already Russian, to 20 liters of gas while his cousin is being drafted to a collapsing front line. Still didn't change, nothing? Okay. The truth is, Russia has no answer. Energy is its Achilles heel. Putin can scream about NATO escalation all day, but he cannot magically just appear new refineries into existence. He cannot replace sanctioned equipment. He cannot rebuild faster than Ukraine can destroy. And every strike chips away at this regime's social contract. Cheap fuel, cheap bread, stability at home in exchange for silence about the war. Literally what is happening right now. Take away cheap fuel or anything else, and suddenly all of those pillars of Russian stability collapse at once. The global fallout is equally sharp though. Trump has started slapping tariffs on Indian imports to pressure New Delhi into ditching Russian crude, while Turkey is suddenly buying US liquefied natural gas after meeting with him. Even Hungary, Moscow's last friend in Europe, just signed a deal with France's Engie to import non-Russian gas. Russia is being isolated not just militarily, but commercially. Its oil market shrinking as fast as its battlefield reputation. And meanwhile, Kyiv is doing what it promised. Only striking energy sites, not civilian apartments. I mean, the contrast is incredible, right? Putin destroys maternity hospitals, while Ukraine targets refineries. Who looks like the terrorist right now? Or is it just now? Or it has always been that way? Probably equally important question. And while Washington hands Ukraine the coordinates, Brussels is digging into Moscow's piggy bank. Remember those 140 billion euros in Russian frozen assets in Europe, right? For years, European Union leaders argued about whether they could even touch them. Some thought they should sit quietly in accruing interest, and then Kyiv gets these crumbs, at least something. Well, not anymore. The mood has flipped like a switch. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, backed by Ursula von der Leyen and a chorus of Nordic leaders, is pressing for reparations loan, using that frozen mountains of cash basically. But here's the twist. The loan will not go to rebuild Ukraine's destroyed schools or hospitals. It will go straight into buying European-made weapons. The logic is as cold as it is brutal. If Ukraine loses the war, there will be nothing left to rebuild. I mean, Russia will have to do it if it's going to be Russian territory, right? I mean, that's what they claim at least. That line from a European Union diplomat sums up the consensus. France, Sweden, Finland, they are all lining up behind the plan to turn Russia's frozen billions into arms subsidy for Europe's defense industry. Ursula von der Leyen said it outright. Part of the loan must strengthen our own defense industry, she said. Translation: Moscow's seized money will bankroll a European rearmament boom while supplying Ukraine with the hardware it needs to keep torching Russian fuel depots. The irony here is just out of this world. And timing could not be even more symbolic. While Russia begs China and South Korea for gasoline, the European Union is about to turn its assets into a war-funding engine. Every missile Kyiv launches, every drone it sends into a refinery, could soon be stamped paid by the Russian assets manufactured in Europe. Imagine how that headline plays in Moscow's already fragile propaganda circus. Europe is weaponizing Russia's own frozen billions to fund a continental military-industrial revolution, while giving Ukraine the firepower it craves and so desperately needs. Ukraine itself is no longer just surviving. It is dictating the tempo of the war, modern warfare, by turning Russia's energy empire into rubble. The illusion of Russian invincibility, propped up by oil and gas money, is being shattered refinery by refinery, pipeline by pipeline. And with every strike backed by the US intelligence and financed by Russia's frozen assets, the war is not just moving closer to Moscow's borders, it is moving closer to Putin's throne. This is not a quick fix, as Russia's ambassador joked at the United Nations Convention. This is the slow strangulation of a regime that built its empire on oil and fire, and which is now forced to watch it burn. And the person holding the matches? Well, who else but Putin himself? Well, there you have it, guys. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. If you wish to support our work, the links down below, for example, PayPal donations and Patreon memberships, where you can see additional chapter in the end. Thanks so much for watching. See you tomorrow.
We won't succumb to their tricks, the facade they try to sell. Their twisted words and feeble claims are resolve they cannot quell. We see through their lies, their feeble attempts to sway. We do not believe